G'day, g'day. Welcome everybody to the Crypto Happy Hour. And g'day to my old mate 43. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, mate. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Well done. Stuck in the back door there, mate.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on, but before we do anything else, let me do this one thing.
Sure. Ooh, stop it. If you don't mind.
It's a Friday afternoon.
Well done, well done. Cheers to everyone out there in crypto land. And the chat has been going off. So yeah, good to see it. It's been let's just say the last fortnight has been emotional. It's been full on. We've seen the liquidation, cascades, massive market crashes, people front running the 4-year cycle or just trying to claim that the 4-year cycle is in from bottom to top. And yeah, but we haven't seen an alt season. So like, yeah, it's a bit, I don't buy it either because it's a bit like, how can you have a cycle with no alt season?
But I mean, you can. Anything's possible, I guess.
Sure,
but
sure. That's like almost like
there's too much stuff on the horizon of like macro. Like there's too much macro stuff on the horizon that hey, look, if someone out there is of the opinion that it's done and dusted, well then I guess you better sell your bags and get the fuck out. Like that's right. What you better do, right? Yeah, you better leave. I will not, because there's nothing to leave for.
Yeah, so I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago, and I feel like that was something that stuck in my mind. It kind of helped me through the last couple of weeks, which was like, if we haven't seen mad gains, then there's no decision. Like if we had have seen a 10x or 20x or something, and then we're like, oh, okay, well, the 4-year cycle in theory is coming up, in early November, late October, maybe people might want to front run that and start DCAing out and, just to hedge your bets and protect some of your gains. That's one thing. But if you haven't had any gains, if there's been like almost like Hex is less than a cent, then there's almost no decision to be made. It's just, well, I'll just wait for higher prices, as long as it takes, basically.
And if you can't wait for higher prices, just sell at low prices. By all means, just sell at low prices. It's better.
I think those people are out, man. I think, it's better for you, better for me. But I think those people are out. I don't think there's too many people left after this, what's been a fairly brutal bear. There's not that many people that are going to sell the lows at this point.
Look, there is this thing, this phenomenon that takes place on crypto Twitter and elsewhere, where people who haven't received the gains or whatever that they thought were coming to them are crying and and it's been going on for ages and ages, by the way. This is not a new thing.
Yeah.
But there are people out there who are just like, oh, Richard, you have to do this, you have to do that. People need to get through.
He knows
they need to get this through their. Well, I mean, that aside, people need to get this through their thick fucking skulls. He does not have to do shit for you. He does not have to do shit for you.
Yeah.
He's produced a blockchain that works pretty damn well, right? Pretty damn well. And he's also there's other software that's out there that works. There's always going to be someone who's upset, unhappy, and wants him to do some work for them so that their bags can pump so that they can then dump, right? That's basically what it comes down to. And by the way, I do want him to do that as well. But to be crying about it on Twitter as if you're going to help the situation. He's not going to listen. He's not going to read. He's not going to read.
We all want RH to stream, and we all want RH to just magically pump our bags to Valhalla. Let's not shit ourselves. Like that's fully,
of course.
That's part of this being a speculator. And I think we're all speculators. That's what we're doing, and it's a known trade-off. It's a known risk. We're acutely aware that there is a non-zero chance that this can all go to zero, and we're taking that risk and we're taking responsibility for our own risk, hopefully for some, upside in the future. That's the speculation that we're doing. But like you
That's
say,
speculation.
technically, like with the PulseChain's been delivered, it's up to us to shill it. He's got plenty of content out there over the time that he was streaming that we can clip and put it on TikTok. And there are people out there that are doing it. You've got Super Hex, he's out there shilling. You've got Cryptic Girl, they're doing the raids, the guys doing spaces. So I think people are working for their bags, but I think more people need to take responsibility to get out there. And because if we are thinking that this is, the peak of the market historically, and we're under the premise that it's not over, then it's like people need to up their shill game, really.
The other thing is, dude, I read like a thread. I don't even know why the fuck I read it. I read a thread. Someone like wrote like a fucking 10 tweet thread of why fucking RH has to do this and that and that. And I was reading it, and no, and it was a waste of my fucking time. And you know what? It was a waste of his time to write that shit. Because if you had just put that much effort, right? If you had put that much effort into maybe
constructive,
promoting the thing that we all think is great, rather than complaining, which complaining is not going to get you anywhere. I'm complaining right now about this motherfucker, but
we've got to switch it. But we've got to be careful not to complain about complainers.
Yes, that's a hard thing, but I just want to call it out more than anything, that like, just put that effort into something that is going to have an ROI on your time. Because what all you're doing is you're just trying to rage bait people, almost like just you're trying to get people to be upset.
I think just mute those people, bro. Just if they're not being, if they're being hypercritical all the time and just negative, they're not adding value, then just mute them. It's just easier.
And
I talked about
by the
this.
way, I'm not saying if you like, if you're like a little bit upset about whatever you thought was going to be, then have a cry to your wife or something in
private
like
chats
off crypto Twitter. Stop infecting our feeds with this nonsense, this childish like expectations that someone has to do something for you.
Yeah. No, completely understand and agree. So that network effect thing that we were talking about the other stream last 2 weeks ago, and it was like the prisoner's dilemma thing, and then the virality of networks and how they grow, and it really showed that if you had people that were you could have someone who defected or someone that was in agreement with that prisoner's dilemma thing, that could influence the next person in their local network that were like clustered adjacently. And then so depending on how you have these shortcuts, that can spread pretty quickly. So you do have, I feel like people do have the power to influence people. So like choose positive, right? Like bears don't make money. I'm sorry, like particularly in a bull market, if we can call that, an extended bull market, I'm pretty sure bears are going to get wrecked. I mean, you saw James Wynn got liquidated for like another $100 million like this week.
I saw that. Yeah.
And it's like, bro, what are you doing?
Full on.
Like and particularly since the week before, there was this liquidation, leverage liquidation cascade event that happened. I feel like we need to talk about that a little bit. Let me just quickly say hello to the chat, because people have been showing up and I really appreciate the comments. I appreciate everyone showing up and digging in and, let's go. So what's up, Sammy Chica, stalwart of the ecosystem, always there being positive. Really appreciate you. And what is up, Tom Gillespie? G'day, mate. How's things? Jerry, what's up? Happy Friday. Oh, that's me. Ash, legend, what is up? Shaggy Doo. Ruh-roh. What's going on? Nice track. Crypto Class has got a stream. The girls are going to do a Halloween special. So, yes, let's all see what they dress up as and help with their engagement. That could be good. So, check out Crypto Class's stream, I think tomorrow. Ash, what's up? Jacob Booze, cheers to you, sir. Digger Wolf, what's going on? So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the liquidation thing. I f- I fear that I was mistaken into assuming that if you could get a good entry on like a wicked downtrend. Hang on, let's get rid of that. Leverage. If you went like a small amount of leverage, then maybe you'd be okay. And like I've admitted to taking leverage a couple of times and have fortunately done well because like I think ETH was like $2,500 at the time. Uh, but I've also played around with those Pinex bots as well. Like, you know how Ivan on Tech straight shills those Pinex things? And I was like, oh
I've
yeah, I'll
never
give
heard
it.
of them.
Oh,
Tell
okay.
me.
So they're grid bots. So what they do is you have to, it's like there's no KYC, but it's kind of like a decentralized leverage margin trading sort of platform. And they have these grid bots where they uh, basically buy on leverage and then they sell and then they buy on leverage and then they sell. So they're trading in the volatility. And I sort of did it for a little bit, like for a month or something. 43's gone there. He'll be back. And I was like, yeah, it's not really making much. It's like 30%. And then like the risk of having funds on these random exchanges, like these perp exchanges, is always there because, you know, you could just get Mount Gox or whatever and then lose all your shit. And so I was like, yeah, I'll dabble with it, but not really my sort of thing. And then so when that liquidation event happened about a week ago, all those bots got rinsed because even though they're only taking on like small
Mm.
amounts of leverage, like 1.5x, like 3x or whatever, just in these little trades, like any amount of leverage, as it turns out, is an unsafe amount of leverage because these wicks can just ruin the entire capital position. So, like, lucky for me, the one that I had, from whatever it was like $2,200 ETH was the margin call price, whatever. So it didn't wick down that far, but yeah, a lot of people got scam wicked, and I feel like that whole event was orchestrated for possibly two reasons. One, you had the ASTER versus hyperliquid perp dex war that was going on, where they were trying to get sort of mind share and market share. But in the back of my mind, I always sort of thought if Ethereum goes up like really high, the amount of like I don't see how hyperliquid and some of these perp dexes would be able to pay out those longs because like even a 10x leverage, but some people taking like stupid leverage, like 20x, 50x, and things like that. And so you're just like, how are they going to pay it out? And as it turns out, they would never have to pay it out because they just fucking wick it right down and just ruin everyone's longs, and then it can go up. So if they ever, I think, are in danger of like not being able to pay something out, they just get market makers to just liquidate everyone. So I feel like that's what happened. And in one side, it could be bullish because that's like they liquidate everyone before they go up, so that they don't have to pay everyone out, or that maybe because the protocol would fail if it tried to pay out. Because who knows how they're actually doing behind the scenes. And then I guess it's also just the 4-year cycle. Like some people take it from top to top, some people and could have front run that. Some people take it from bottom to top, and then people were just like, who had maybe made money in Solana and Bitcoin decided to get out. But I do feel like it was manipulated more like for those perp dexes. And I think that's what we saw. So two things happened. I want to talk about what Tom Lee has to say here.
By the way, just before you, how do you feel
Yes.
about Tom Lee being like the sort of mascot of Ethereum this cycle? I'm not
I think
stoked about it, dude.
he's oh, really? I mean, he's like a full nerd, like,
We
but
could have done better. We could have done
so am
better
I.
than that guy.
So it depends on what you want, like a hype man that just talks shit, or someone that's like fairly reserved and but maybe a bit of a goober.
I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me, mate.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So I was just going to say with BTC. So what happened with this massive liquidation? Right, this is on the daily. It made a lower low, and I think everyone basically shat their pants because they were like, if you do get a liquidation and you get this V-shaped recovery, and Tom Lee was even one of the proponents of that theory that it should be 1.4 to 1.7 times the fall time, should be the rise time. It should have recovered like super quick if it was a bull market. But the fact that it made a lower low off this liquidation was like, oh, the top is in. And then so from that point of view, if the top was in on like, the 6th of October, then that whole 27 days for Ethereum to top should be placing it around about the 2nd of November. But then Ethereum basically didn't do much out of this. It didn't make lower lows though. So that was, I thought, bullish for Ethereum. It made a higher low here. So, but then I guess the thing is, it hit this support at 106,000. I forget what that is, but it's obviously some support that I've tagged. They're probably weekly support. And now it's making, on the daily, it's making a higher low. So like that's like, ooh, can we get back above the 20-day moving average? Because the weeklies, I did close below the 20-week moving average, which is super bearish, and maybe a sign of things to come. But it could also, like, it's pretty close, so it could close back above the 20-week moving average like next week, and then it's like back on. So I guess we're entering potentially this could be complacency after the Bitcoin top. And the only way to negate that, like the 4-year cycle thing, is for Bitcoin to make a new higher high. So it needs to close the week above 123, or close the day above 126 or something. Or actually the close would be 125. So if we can make a new higher high, then that kind of negates the 4-year cycle, bottom to top. So that was my, this is like, you are here. We're making, we were shitting our pants, and then now we've just made a higher low. So there's a sniff. So depending on whether you care about Bitcoin and Ethereum, I mean, we've seen the Ethereum SAC funds, it was like the 4th largest ETH strategic reserve, basically get
Can I ask you a question?
sent through Tornado Cash like this morning. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that could imply that maybe Hex has got some dry powder ready to ignite. But what's your question, man?
Well, my question is, I mean, Bitcoin did like hit all-time highs and then new all-time highs, and then has gone well and beyond. But Ethereum didn't do it, right?
True.
So that would say that would make like that they're not correlated in that respect,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if they're not correlated in that respect, why should they? If Bitcoin goes down, why should they now be correlated that Bitcoin doesn't go on and make a new all-time high now? Like, do you know what I mean?
I
like,
can tell you, I can tell you the problem. I think I know exactly where you're going with this. And the problem is that our sample set of data is really small. So there's only like,
yeah,
3
a
cycles or
few,
something that you can
yeah.
point to, maybe 4
It's,
or whatever. But it's like,
it's less for Ethereum than it is for
and for
Bitcoin.
Ethereum, it was like, was it 2012 or something? So, oh no, so yeah, so no, not even, like
2015,
2015.
like
So
10 years.
it's like 10 years. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we've only got like 2 data points to work with. And it's not great
yeah.
to make inferences and trends
Well,
with such a
but we
small
can.
data set. So
You're right. You're right. So, and I agree with that. I just think that what has what has pushed? We have to ask ourselves a question: what has pushed Bitcoin like to where it's been this cycle?
Or
And I think it's been
institutions.
institutional ETFs
Mm,
and so
mm.
forth. Now, I don't think we've seen the same sort of inflows into Ethereum. And
Yeah. I mean,
so
certainly BlackRock and the guys
think
have, but
yes,
the
yep,
way that they buy, unfortunately, a lot of it is through OTC, and also they they pay market makers allegedly to dump the prices, just like what we saw last week, right? Where the market makers liquidate on these perp exchanges, and because everything's um, cross leveraged, they use collateral for one, right, to put on a leveraged position, and then they cross leverage that with another asset, and they cross leverage that with another collateral. So because it's all like cross leveraged, once you have one market maker just dump the price on these perp exchanges, everything else crashes down, like it forces this crash down.
cascades.
It
Yeah.
cascades. That's like how, so when they do that, right, it forces the rest of the market to sell, maybe to cover their positions and all this sort of stuff. And then so they're just waiting to scoop it all up. They put in maybe a V3, position, so that they trigger massive sells, and then they create a floor where they're actually buying all the people's sells. And so that way they're not actually moving the price against themselves, and also OTC. So both ways, these guys have been accumulating, like we're talking about Roca Negra, all the, Grayscale, all the ETFs, all this sort of stuff. Like, and the way that they do it, they've been buying in a way that hasn't moved the price maybe as much as it should have, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. I just think that there's too much that could happen in the next 6 months, uh, with like in relation to even like the macro stuff like the Fed cutting
Mm.
rates. Powell will
Yes.
leave at some
Oh,
stage next year, uh,
yeah. So it's
and
only 4 days.
you would
The next cut is only in 4 days.
well we're assuming a cut, but
Mate,
we don't know.
just lock it in.
Yep.
Lock it in. 25 basis points
Yep.
minimum. So yeah, so that's happening like, next week.
Yeah. So
But what we're
you
waiting
know.
for is retail, because the retail are the only ones that push the price
Mm.
up, is where I was going with that. Is like, particularly of alts, because they don't know how to do this, to buy like OTC and all this stuff. So yes, we've had a lot of institutional investment, but we haven't had retail. They're the ones that just send it into that last, because they've been lining up around the corner to buy gold, bro.
I know.
Did you see
And
that? Or the
Peter Schiff is about to sell tokenized gold.
Yes, yes. So okay, let me quickly play this. Actually, I don't even have to. But there was a lot of people lining up around the corner. I think everyone saw it, um, to buy gold, and so the theory is that you might get a rotation from gold into BTC. So there's other things as well. Like, I mean, the M2 money supply has been going off, and so it's just like whether or not we're going to catch up. Like BTC is going to catch up to that. Let me see if yeah. So China been buying up gold through the roof, and also, actually, you tell you what, I'll play this clip because it makes sense to what I'm talking about.
Well, there is an interesting correlation we found, which is when I look at Tether's supply of dollars outstanding, it really started to rise about 3 months ago, and that corresponded with gold essentially going up every day. I'm not positive of this, but I think stablecoins, including Tether, may be one of the largest buyers of gold today.
That's perfect. So the people that have been bullish on gold for so long and bearish on crypto, and Bitcoin, they're finally getting their big rally in gold, and it's because of the thing they hate so much, crypto and Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's right.
That's so funny.
Tether is proving to be a good meeting ground between Bitcoiners and gold people.
So that's interesting. So he was saying that because of the stable coins, and in particular Tether, may have actually been some of the biggest buyers of gold because they needed to back the stable coins that they're issuing. So, and then if you sort of look at what he's talking about, like, yeah, there has been just this huge buy pressure with gold. And then, but, you know,
When did that start? Late August.
This is in, late August, September. It's just been going. I mean, these are huge numbers for a massive market, like 30% move. I mean, I'm not sure what the but we're talking trillions, right? Like the amount of money in gold is ridiculous. So this is people lining up in Vietnam. I'm not sure if you could hear that, but that was
Wow.
had some funny music. For gold, this is people lining up in Singapore.
Wasn't it Vietnam where they shut down like all those bank accounts?
Very possibly. I don't know, man. This is people, I think, in Australia buying up gold, like lining up to buy gold. So if you're kind of thinking
Are they
about
buying
these,
paper gold or
this
actual
one's
gold?
obviously not.
Like, are
Well,
they buying?
some of these this looks like ABC bullion. So, you know, they don't, I mean, you can just buy the actual, whatever they call it, like, you know, the actual bullion. But I think some of the bigger guys just buy like a promissory note, you know, of the gold because they can't store it or whatever. I mean, that's the problem with gold. Apart from the fact that it's non-fungible and you can't send it as a transaction, you know, internationally in an instant. It's also, if you need to sell any of it, you have to like melt it down and then get it priced, and you have to store it. There's a lot of disadvantages to gold, right? Apart from the fact that it's literally just a yellow rock. But yeah, tokenized gold, like I get it, but you know, Peter Schiff, yeah, it's a thing, but it already exists. Like that PAX G or whatever is a crypto with tokenized gold. All it's doing is keeping up with inflation. So if you, I mean, that's the debasement trade, right? So if you've already accumulated a huge amount of wealth and you don't want to see it be eroded by the money supply being printed, then it's conserving your wealth by investing in assets that keep up with inflation is a great idea.
Theoretically.
And yeah, and so
I mean,
gold,
historically, if you look at gold, like over the
but you're
last,
probably not.
it hasn't been.
But you're
It's
not going to get
like
rich. Like what I'm saying is you're not going to like get generational wealth from $1,000 worth of gold. Like you all it's going to do is maintain its wealth, maybe over inflation.
Yeah,
but it's not.
and you're not going to get that from Bitcoin either, by the way.
True.
And you're probably not going to get that from Ethereum either. So
yeah,
the question
we've always
is,
talked about this.
like,
It's a risk spectrum. You might have some portion of your portfolio. You don't have to full port into the riskiest thing you can think of. You can have real estate and a little bit of gold and silver or whatever, and Bitcoin and Ethereum and your, you know, high risk meme coins and things. But it depends on your position.
you mitigate your risks
you
by spreading you allocate across different things. Like so for example, like in Australia, property has historically in the last like 20, 30 years been a really, really good bet. Nowadays, you know, we have to, it's not so obvious or straightforward anymore as it used to be. It used to be like very, very straight, like an obvious bet that you would just put your money in property in Australia. Now, like for example, in some states, land tax is quite significant, and there's also
your
like
land tax must be way worse than ours, because ours is bad, but it's not that bad.
Well, I know
Yeah.
that Victoria has like I think it's about if the property is over $3 million, which by the way, that sounds like a lot, but it's sort of not really, you know. It sort of isn't, is it? It's like not
Well,
really.
it is, but if you actually look at those houses, you kind of go, yeah, this house is like, that's not that great. So why is it worth so much? But it is a lot of money. But it
Yeah,
depends.
and
If
by
you're living in
and-
it is one thing, but if you've got multiple of them and then you're renting
but-
them out, the rent that you're accruing is really
yeah.
good. And
And by the
if
way,
you've got like
you don't even like fully, you haven't even paid all of these things off, right? So,
no,
no, and I'm not talking about you. I'm saying like a person hasn't, they've got them and they owe, a lot of money on
mm.
them, but you're still paying these
Well, the way
high
that
percentages. I think
I
over
do it
$3
is that
million, it's like 2 or 3%. 2 or 3% is a
yeah.
lot to pay in every year it's like a rent you're paying to own it. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
so the way that I do it is that with the investment properties, I have interest only loans, and then by primary residence, I have P&I. So I'm always trying to pay down the principal on the house that you're in, but I don't mind just doing interest only on investment properties because that's over say 10 years, you get that maybe the 7% linear growth over 10 years is a doubling. So, which is basically just keeping up with inflation. Like, let's not shit ourselves. It's the debasement of the dollar that you're seeing. But assuming it doubles in 10 years, it means that your principal debt hasn't changed. So that you've got a lot of equity there that you can use then as a deposit to buy another house, another investment property, And then so as
Yeah.
long as the
Yeah.
rent is covering the mortgage of the interest only loan, then in theory, it's positively geared. If it's negatively geared, well then great. You're getting a discount, a deduction on your taxable income. So, but look, that's just, I don't know if that's, I'm not a financial advisor, all this sort of stuff, but
I think
you
that's
have to
been a really
consider.
good setup. I think that's been a really, really good setup for people over the last 30 years, 30 to 40 years in Australia. I think that's been like if you have the income to support like getting off the ground with that,
Sure.
then that works. And also you sort of also need the income every 5 years to refinance because especially
Yeah,
now,
you
I
need it.
think the interest
Too good to
only,
work.
they don't, yeah, the interest only loans only go like they want to refinance them after 5 years. I
But
don't
that's
think
okay. You can refinance with a new bank if you had to, or with the same bank. Like, refinancing is a
yeah,
good thing. You get a better
yes,
deal if you refinance. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you need income to be able to support the premiums, right? And taking into account the rental yield. So that's a yield bearing asset that appreciates. So I like real estate. I've always been a fan.
So how do you feel about the left side of politics sometimes just throwing it out there that they want rent controls on privately owned property? Like how does
I
that
don't pay much attention to it,
sit
bro.
with you, mate?
I just don't pay attention to it. I just ignore it, or I don't listen to the news or any of that shit. I focus
Yeah,
on crypto news, and that's about it.
yeah.
Like, everything
That's
else is just noise. They're like, I remember that Iran flood and everything, and I'm just like, oh, time to buy. And I was just not
yeah.
fussed by it. And I'm like, well, it's either going to be World War III or a good entry. So
Yeah.
let's
That's
just
yeah.
see. And it turned
Either
out
we
it was a
die
good
or we get
entry.
rich.
Yeah. It's like, there's nothing really I can do about it. So I'm just going to
Yeah.
speculate. That's my thing. Let's just quickly say hello to the chat here. Red Bull OG. I'm not quite sure what's happening here. I may have missed the context of this. Yes, Bulltard. That's what we need more of. Blobfish, what is up, bro? A lot of the crowd are now aware of the cycle. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Whether it's like the more you become aware of it, then is it more likely to happen? You could argue both ways. No cry in the casino, 100%. Let's see what else is
Yes.
up.
Don't
McNuggets.
cry at the casino. Cry at home. Go home and cry.
Right. That's it. I think there's quite a few people in here I haven't seen before. WI football. Went to UK, China being thrown to Drew Caucus. Still around. Okay. God damn. Maths is Voster 9229. What's up? Yeah, yeah. So the volatility has been extreme and the manipulation, I think, has been extreme. But there was an interesting tweet that RH did where he basically said, you know, he doesn't care about alt season. He cares about our season. And I thought that was really bullish because he's starting to sort of rally the troops. Actually, I might even have it here. Yeah, I don't give a fuck about alt season. I give a fuck about our season. Like that is super bullish. So in that vein of thinking, he's also put here some chart art, if you like, where this is for Ethereum, mind you. This is that massive liquidation. But this bubble only really goes to sort of April next year. And towards the end of the bubbles, you see a bit of a downturn. So he's kind of almost implying that we might see a bit of a leg up and a peak somewhere between November and maybe March. And he's pretty good with his calls. I don't know if you heard, but he called the
7
top
to
on the day.
9,000. Yeah, yeah. Maybe 7 to 9,000 because probably not right up the top of that. You know.
Yes. Well, look, 9,000 is a number I've been calling for some time based on fib lines, fib extensions, and also ETH to BTC ratios. So, you know, people, you know, they probably don't like to hear it because it is a little bit bearish. But if you go back and have a look at this ETH to BTC, what's going on here? If you go back and look at the ETH to BTC ratios from previous cycles, we had it go from 0.16 roughly down to 0.16, and then the top of the next ETH BTC ratio was 0.08. So it was literally the 50% mark was where it kind of got rejected. So by that logic, I was like, well, then the ETH BTC ratio might end up only getting to 50% like of the previous all-time high. You know, we're just looking for patterns. So it's 0.05. And then if you sort of did the extrapolation of 180K times 0.05, like if 180K was the BTC top, then that puts ETH at 9K, which is roughly what this is here. So I don't think this is beyond the pale. I think this sort of makes sense, but it does sort of imply that it's a right translated cycle in terms of ETH topping in almost early next year, which we've always considered to be a possibility. And I like the idea of, you know, that Mike Tyson quote that's like, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
You've heard that? Yeah.
Of course.
So it's like you have a plan, you have you're prepared for the scenario that you hope to eventuate. But if it doesn't happen exactly the way you plan it, you have to adapt and then look for the opportunity that presents itself. And you take the opportunities that arise, like particularly in fighting. Like that's how you fight, right? Like you have to react to the circumstances that arise, and then you react to body positioning, leverage, you know, weight distribution, balance, and all these sort of things. But it's an assessment and a reaction based on the other person. You can't go into it thinking with a predetermined thing because it may not work. So I like that analogy of like, well, you know, we got punched in the face last week with the BTC liquidations, but it's not over yet. Like it's not down and out. and there's a few things we can do that might, if BTC can do a higher high, then that just, I think, changes the whole game plan now.
There's
we have
another
to
thing
be
that,
aware.
like another metric that I've been looking at,
Sure.
and I like as it's this one where you look at where has like the coin reached its previous all-time high,
Mm-hmm.
and then from that point onwards, how long did it take to make its new all-time high? And you go back and look at every cycle, and often what I see is that when a coin will make its previous all-time high from the previous cycle, once it regains that, it's like a year until it makes its new all-time high. A year from that point. So I was looking at that, and I was looking at Ethereum, for example, and I think Ethereum, if I'm not mistaken, was June or July in 2025 that it got back up to its previous, or maybe even August, that it got up to its previous all-time high. So, one could argue that, well, if we're following that sort of that same sort of pattern, where after getting the previous all-time high, it takes a year to get to something,
Could be.
to the next all-time high. Then we're looking at, we could be looking at mid 2026, and I know that's way outside the 4-year cycle sort of talk, right?
That's 4-year cycle broken. Yeah,
that's but there's like I said, I think
we don't know. No one knows, bro.
Yeah,
it's so funny to watch these guys, and they, Ivan on Tech comes out and he's saying, "Oh, I told you all to get rid of leverage and stuff like that, before the leverage crash." And you're like, "No, you didn't." And then, "Oh, I told you to buy Zcash because look how much it's got off." It's like, "No, you didn't." Like, I was watching a lot of those streams and they're full of shit, hey. And then they go straight back to shilling leverage links again. Like, after such a huge event, like, you have to realize that there's no such thing as a small amount of leverage. Like, you can lose it all. So then they go back to shilling leverage the week later. And then you're sort of going, 1 week they're bearish, 1 week they're bullish. They have no idea. They're the same as us. We're just guessing and we're hoping. But no one has any idea, bro. Except the guys who
I've
are
made it
making
very
the
clear that
markets.
I have no idea. I just
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
I see
You
so
say
like like everyone, you see patterns, you see things, and you say, "Oh, okay, well,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is definitely possible." And I think it's fair to say that everyone got everything wrong
Pretty
this
much.
cycle, apart from the Bitcoin maxis, right? They didn't get it
Yeah.
wrong, they didn't get it
Yeah,
wrong.
I think that was the thing, is if you were Bitcoin maxi from a year after the all-time high, so and you bought it at 16K or whatever, and just literally held it the entire way, then you probably outperformed everyone. But still, that's like Bitcoin's up like
If you bought the
30% for
top,
the year, bro.
but
30%
if you
like this for
but if you
2025.
bought
That's fucking
and this
nothing.
is the point I want to make. If you bought the previous Bitcoin top in 2021, then
Yes.
really you really you haven't even doubled. You haven't even made
No.
100%. Even if you sold the top of what just happened a couple of weeks ago or whenever it was.
Yeah.
So
70K
it's
to 123 is like, so I was like 70% up. But that's not a lot. Like, so
it's not
people
it's
claiming
not
victory on
it's not crypto.
gains
It's
for
not crypto
ants, basically.
returns.
Yeah, it's gains for ants. So it's like,
Yeah.
that doesn't impress me, bro. Like, that's good, but also we're not in it for 30%. So it is what it is. We have to accept it. But just looking at it here, it's looking like ETH's about to bust through 4K again.
Can we look at ETH? Because every time I
bro.
look at ETH, I'm just like, it's compressing. Like if we zoom out a bit and just like look at it on log.
Yeah, but I mean, these charts don't look great, bro. Like, I must admit. I mean, it did a huge extension up. You got to admit, this is a massive move, right? So if you go from 1400 to 35, 3,700, whatever. We're talking like 250% up. Oh, sorry, that's to, is that right? Oh, that was up to 4.6. Okay. Yeah, so that's like 250% up. But if you're looking at it, higher highs, all that sort of
Can
stuff,
we
it was in a
can we
mad
look at
uptrend.
years? Can we look at the few years? Is that possible on
Yeah,
this chart?
yeah, sure, of course. But just breaking it up into like structure on the daily, it started to make lower lows, but then now it's just making higher lows here. So then like on the weekly, it hasn't broken below the 20 MA, so that's good. Monthly, I think it's still making higher lows and higher highs. That's a lower high there. But that's just resistance. But yeah, so this is months. So yeah, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that there's like almost like a flag sort of thing going on here where it's compressing.
That's exactly what I'm talking. Like, let's have a look at that and see what's going. Like, I would be worried if that trend line that you've just drawn, if that got broken. But it looks like it's just getting compressed, and it's going to, and maybe it keeps getting compressed, or at some point. I mean,
Could be.
it's just not.
That would be crazy if that's a.
I mean, we're talking about a trend line that
goes.
It goes all the way back to 2022. This trend line.
Oof! Look where it finishes, though, bro. 2029. Man, ain't nobody got time for that. That's a long time to wait, bro. Let's just.
It doesn't mean it has to
play
out.
And just
it doesn't have to play
now.
out that far, right? It doesn't.
No, it doesn't, because look, it's already at the top of. It's already at the resistance here. It could just go straight.
And it could break through that. It could break through.
Yeah, no, I'm not subscribing.
Could you drag it down?
No. It's too far away, bro. It's too far away. It doesn't fit my. I've
Can you drag it down
Rolex
a bit? I just want to see the top of I've got Rolexes to buy.
I need a new everything. What am I looking at? Nah,
can you drag the whole thing down just a little bit, like the whole chart down just slightly, so I can see above? Yeah. Like I get you. That's that plays out a long way, but
too far,
it's sort of bouncing off that. It keeps bouncing off that top, and every time it comes back, it's not going further down. It doesn't seem. It still seems to be in that sort of trend. So I guess if it comes down again and it doesn't break through that blue line, that would be bullish for 2029.
Yeah, I'm not. My time frames are way shorter than that. Hey, like I was on the 4-hour chart just before. So yeah, monthlies. I get it. You're right. And I've got a story about buying BNB at $10. So let's just have a look at the BNB chart. So I bought BNB around, so it was like 20, well, it may have even been, in 2018. So it was around about $10, around about here. And then I was like, oh man, it's gone down to $5. Oh, that sucks. And then it went up to 20 or something. And then it went back down to about 15. And I was like, I sold it. I was like, fuck this. Like, it just, it's not doing anything. And then now it's worth over $1,000. So sometimes 100x. You just have to hold this shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to literally hold it for, I mean, that wasn't
how long
that
are we talking?
long. Yeah, we're talking
7 years, 6 years. From when you bought it, we're talking like 7 years, yeah?
5, maybe 6 or 7 years, yeah. Oh, so that's 2020.
7 years since you bought
5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not even.
But we're pretty
yes. Yes.
Yeah, since you bought it. Well, we're about to have the 6th birthday for like when I say we're about to. I think it's a little bit over a month. Hex's 6th birthday. 6th.
6 years, bro.
That's crazy. 6 years.
You know what they say
hey?
about the what is it? The 7-year 7-year itch.
7-year itch in marriages.
Have you heard that? Yeah, in marriages and relationships,
Yeah.
apparently they break down after 7 years is quite a common theme.
Mm.
But then,
Yep.
Anyway, whether it does or not, I mean, it's not like guaranteed. But so apparently, the reason for that 7-year itch, biologically speaking, or maybe evolutionarily speaking, is that when the offspring, like your progeny, is 7 years old, it can kind of fend for itself without the parents. Like, well, particularly the man, if the man needs to defend, if say if the man, we're talking about like, evolution where you sort of, having to maybe spread the
Caveman,
seed and all this sort of stuff,
hunter-gatherers.
caveman sort of days, whatever. Yeah, hunter-gatherers. Yeah, it's probably the way to describe it. Then once the child is old enough to support itself against, can maybe forage for itself or whatever, then that's why there might be some inclination there. I don't know how true that is. That was the reasoning that I heard. But I've been married for over 10 years, so
I just think that
I'm out of the woods there.
Me too. Yep. Well, you've got the 14-year itch to look forward to, yeah.
The 14
I heard
years.
it's twice as bad.
It's just leveraged. Yes, it could just be bullshit as well. Sometimes you hear things and you're like, oh,
I think
maybe.
I think, look, I reckon it's probably just bullshit. But who knows, man? Who knows? I can be convinced of a lot of crazy shit.
Look, we're seeing patterns with patterns. The human brain,
as crypto Twitter teaches me every day.
Yeah, look, the way I see it is, we're pattern matching machines. Like we have evolved to see patterns in things, and that's helped our survival. It's been evolutionary advantageous to recognize patterns in, weather and whatever, crops and cycles and things like that. So we tend to see patterns everywhere, even when there aren't patterns. There's that whole pareidolia thing where people see faces in, their toast or whatever. So I can excuse people for seeing patterns where there are no patterns. And we're just trying our best, right? Like we don't know for sure. We just present some of these patterns and we hope that they play out, but we adapt to whatever is the reality. We're just trying to predict and speculate, but then we also have to adapt.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't play out, then it doesn't, and then we just have to adapt. One thing that's interesting, I think it was Brizology was talking, and he was saying something about, what is it with the maybe some of, I don't want to name names, but some of the other communities in PulseChain, and I was like, I wonder if it's because people who get into crypto in general are sort of almost as a default, they're kind of anti-authoritarian. They don't have this, they sort of don't just follow an authority because they're an authority, like an authority bias. Like they tend to push back a little bit if based on the merit.
Mainstream.
Yes. So what is it? Anyway, I forget what the bias is called, but when you have like you have an authority bias, but people in crypto are generally anti-authoritarian. So a little bit. And then, so the problem is like, you get the people who are anti, like Richard, and cry about RH because they see him as a source of authority because he's the founder, and they tend to rebel against even that. Like that's just dialed in like too much, anti-authority against their own sort of benefit. Like if you think of it in terms of like, how is this going to benefit me the most? They can't see that by crying on Twitter against RH is the last thing that's going to help.
Dude, there's all sorts of crazy, bro. There's all sorts of crazy people in every niche. Like if you get a group of people, and then within that group there's a niche, and then within that group there's a niche. There's even people who will film themselves like cutting open their ball sacks and all crazy shit like that. There's people who do that. Why? I have no idea, man. I have no idea.
Yeah,
But
and
those
look,
people
conspiracy.
who want to, no, but I guess, but the analogy I'm drawing here is that
Mhm.
if you're gonna like FUD openly, like talk shit about like the assets that you own, and like make a big deal out of it, you are the dude who cuts open his ball sack on video. Like that is you. You know what I mean? Like
Gotta stop
that is
saying that,
you.
bro. It's too graphic. It's too much.
I'm saying it because it happens, man. It happens.
Yeah,
But yeah, I will stop saying it.
that's too much. Yes, and look, the conspiracy stuff I think speaks to a lot of people, which is fine and fun, but then sometimes it goes a bit too far. So I think Richard came out and even said, you know, how he was doing, you know, he called Corey Costa cryfag and all this sort of stuff. He was talking about, you know,
I don't think he called
is
him a cryfag, by
garbage.
the way. I think he
He
labeled
said
his
stop cryfagging.
behavior. He labeled his behavior cryfagging behavior, which is there's like a slight difference
There's
between
a subtle
calling, say,
difference.
you are a cryfag or you are displaying cryfagging behavior, which you could change, right?
Yeah.
Because if
but
you were a
look,
cryfag,
Corey
you
took
are
that
a
like
cryfag, right?
yeah,
took like a
Corey took
man.
that like a champ. Like he just
Yeah.
ran with it and said it was funny and just
He
went on
did well.
deadlifting. Yeah, so like
Yep.
full credit to Corey for that, because I thought that was you know, that was pretty harsh. But yeah, so IH had said, you know, that PDAR was garbage, but even garbage can go up, you know. So that was interesting. But the way that a lot of those things play out with some of these communities, with these hidden L2s and all this sort of stuff, it's also it's the conspiracy minded sort of people, I think, more than anything, that tend to that latch on to some of this stuff. But there was a couple of good tweets as well. I think there's the Bollinger Band guy. He was basically saying that that ETH was in right at the bottom of those Bollinger Bands.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay. Let me see if I can. Oh, here we go. So this was potential W bottom in Bollinger Bands for ETH, USDC, and Sol, but not in BTC. So this is the guy who invented Bollinger Bands, and this is Liberty Swap sort of saying here. So you're saying that he called this at like 3,800 ETH, but he was saying it's at the bottom. And typically when you get to the bottom of these bands is when you see a correction. So I was like, oh, that's kind of bullish. But it looks like I've got old mate Tom Peter Gillespie. G'day. How are you, sir?
G'day, mate. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. Just
pretty good, mate.
Coping and surviving.
How are you, man?
I dig that. Yeah, good, mate. In the trenches, just getting shit done on the DGen doco.
Nice.
Chipping away at it.
That's the way. How's all that going? So you've got because you had the hexagons and the time value of money, and then so this is a new doco, right? The DGen doco.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the one I've been putting together over the last couple of years, pretty much since the hexagons doco came out.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, it's been a wild ride. So just kind of got a bit stuck in the post-production, you know, gathering all the bits of the pieces of the puzzle, putting it all together in a coherent manner. Yeah, no,
man.
It's coming together great though. I'm looking forward to getting it out there. Hopefully, you know, maybe, well, it's supposed to be this month, but looks like it'll be more like next month.
Right. Yeah, look, I think everyone needs to have a laugh. So follow Tom and check out his stuff. And the Indican stuff as well is good.
Yeah, mate. We've got an interesting project on PulseChain actually. Almost it's almost somewhat charted in the DGen doco. It's emerged along that timeline at least. So Indican.online is the site. couple of mates that I've made on the chain over the years are involved. You probably will recognize a few of them, like Brian and Georgia. And then I've brought in a mate called Hal and Dr. Teed as well. So there's 5 of us who are rolling on there at the moment. Of course, it's a bit of a mega project, but we've got something in the market now with the with this IndieFlix, which is the streaming arm of this this filmmaker ecosystem that we're developing. So
yeah, because we were talking about this the other week, but we had no clue as to how it was working. And so, you know, it's good to see people building on PulseChain and all this sort of stuff. And it's good to support the arts, I guess, as well. So, you know, credit to you for following your passion and other filmmakers who are into this sort of stuff. But I really had no idea what. So is it that the different filmmakers have different tokens or something?
Yeah, every filmmaker, every Indican filmmaker that comes aboard gets puts their token in the index, the Indican index, which is like it's a bond between the filmmaker token and the Indican, like the ecosystem token, if you like.
Right.
And that's well, we're sort of we're seeing what we can learn in that regard, but that's sort of one component of it, right? And then there's obviously the collective of filmmakers producing together. And then we've got the distribution arm with the IndieFlix. And it's not made apparent there on the website, but you can log in, you can sign up, and you can see the entire library already. You can see the filmmakers' works. But if you want to start streaming, then we're running this these passes, this campaign at the moment that you see right there on the front page, which is it's a way for early adopters or early supporters to get involved and, you know, get access to certain features or productions that we're going to drop in the near future. So this campaign will end. It's going to run as we drop out new features. We move through the stages on that, but it's very, very geared towards the early fan base or the early adopters, supporters who have, you know, interest in what we're doing. But yeah, mate, it's been a trip, and we've got a great bag of features, not just productions from our filmmakers, but also like some pretty cool DeFi features that are coming out on IndieFlix. Of course, if you're going to develop an ecosystem, you know, you can you know, if you have an idea, you can understand that there's almost infinite partnership potentials when growing an ecosystem, and additional features and learning opportunities, of course, because when you have a bunch of people in a network experimenting and having the freedom to try different things with not only their tokens, but their creative output, it's a great opportunity for this kind of cross-collaborative learning, you know? So that's what I'm really kind of keen on seeing emerge here. But yeah, like I say, it's not explicitly obvious that you can actually go in there already and take a look behind the scenes of what we're already offering filmmakers and, you know, people that just want to stream, who are supporters of those filmmakers. But you can sign up anytime and go behind the scenes if you like, and have a little bit, you know, closer look at what's being already rolled out. And, you know, Yala Coder is our lead dev, and he's built that nice kind of itch that can't be scratched. And yeah, it's nice to see that those of us involved in the project are kind of like just chipping away at things and throwing spaghetti at the wall, you know.
Nice. Yeah, wow. Okay, sounds interesting, man. Yeah, best of luck to you. I think it's good that people are building, and especially with this whole, you know, the filmmakers and stuff, there's a lot of content and stuff that gets out there. So hopefully it only adds to the virality and gets more eyes on PulseChain. So it's good to see you guys working.
I think it will, mate. It definitely will. I think we have, you know, every time we add a filmmaker to Indican, we reach a whole new network, right? Because they have their own posse, their own fan base, and what have you. And although we're kind of, you know, we're fully focused right now on creative folk on PulseChain because, you know, we want to lean into what's possible to learn and also, you know, what their expectations or ideas are. And we've struck up a conversation with a few creatives on the chain who are, you know, interested in being part of this as well.
Yeah, awesome.
So it's
yeah. I mean, so there was that Joshy Wu guy, the Wuji gang. Have you spoken to him or chatted to him at all?
Yeah, we've been on and off for a while. And
he does some funny stuff.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, he's in LA now as well.
In terms of the network thing, so because I was looking into that sort of the virality and how networks grow, and it was sort of that idea of shortcuts where if you have people in your adjacent cluster, the rate of growth is a lot slower than if you can shortcut across to hubs, and that's how you see giant networks grow the fastest, is when you have different hubs and different connections. So there's some sort of preferential attachment theory where you tend to engage with hubs that have a greater number of nodes already attached to them. So the idea that you can have these shortcuts between hubs, I think, actually expands the network a lot faster. So in this sense, your hub is this creative filmmaker hub, and whereas someone else might be into, I don't know, anime or something, or gaming or music or whatever. But if you can tap into these different things, someone might be niche into heavy metal. And I know I'm in a Telegram group with just heavy metal hexagons, you know, and these guys like are not paying attention to anything else, but we're sharing videos about heavy metal bands that we like, you know. And so that little niche, but then you can, so some of these guys are in Poland and Finland and Germany, wherever, the US, so spread around the world, and they have their own networks. And then so the more you can cross connect these different networks at an international level and between existing hubs, you're more like, the faster you can grow the network. And so reaching out to different communities, you know, I think with the spaces, doing raids and things like that, people, you know, doing, say, Solana or whatever the other chain is, to sort of trying to bridge the gap between the Solana community and the PulseChain community, all this sort of thing, I think helps overall. You don't have to buy Solana, just like you don't have to buy, you know, Indican or whatever it is, G'day token, but you can still support, you know, people who are trying to improve the network.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's quite a few sides to this market as well, right? Both on the Web 2 and the Web 3 side. So, you know, we'll be in a place where filmmakers who are, you know, there's definitely more filmmakers in Web 2, right? So there'll be a time in the near future. Again, you can see this if you log in and you go behind the scene, you look at the filmmaker dashboard and everything. You can see what I'm talking about. You won't see it on the front page, but there's a process of like bringing on filmmakers that are all about, you know, they've got their own story worlds, they've got their own tastes, their ambitions and their passions, and it's how to, you know, how to bring that token side, like what's the tokens element in this ecosystem for those people. And at this stage, I'm thinking of it like merch is a type of merch representative of the filmmaker to some degree. And, you know, merch is a playful thing, you know, people put have all kinds of gamification that they put on their merch, whether it's t-shirts or in this case tokens. And so we have there's an interesting educational opportunity there as well. Currently, of course, it will be all PulseChain related because the tokens and the index and everything is on PulseChain. And the smart contracts, of course, that are going to deliver the split revenues and manage the value flows and stuff. But there are people that just really do not care about DeFi or degenning or what have you, but you know, are into story, connections, collaborating on creative projects and what have you. So it's
Cool.
it's the marrying of those two worlds where one side might, one market participant might not be interested in another side, but how can you have the behavior in the ecosystem mutually beneficial in a way that, they get it quite quickly? Okay, I understand now. And, putting something in the market now, like we've got a foot in the marketplace now. We've got Indiflix, right? We've got product. There's a bunch and 15 hours of films already there.
Wow.
And that's just from the 5 of us, and we're dropping new films each month over the coming 6 to 12 months, as well as we add our back catalogs as well as new filmmakers in. But there's so many interesting, playful, experimental opportunities here, and I personally think like it's a net benefit to PulseChain, to the community. I mean, the infrastructure's sound, it's affordable. It's accessible, and it's just a question now of like, okay, I believe we'll get momentum on PulseChain with Creative Folk. We already have kind of started that, and we'll look to build up the filmmaker database, the library, the creators, and start to sort of see the emergence of this sort of warm, welcoming creative hub, if you like.
Yeah.
Purely, well, at this stage, it's very important to start where you mean to, continue. And so we're very conscious of like what filmmakers come on at this stage. And maybe it's a case of like, I don't think you can automate those types of relationships that develop over time, especially creative relationships. They depend on a lot of trust that can't really be expressed very, very quickly. I don't think, anyway. I think it takes time.
You need to build a rapport. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the distinction between launching an Indikin token, I think, and any other sort of launch pad where you're able to just spin up tokens, do pump and dumps and what have you, and just turn the machine over. I mean, people get into that, that's fine, but that's not what we're not going to see that here, because again, a reputation of a filmmaker, when you ask them to associate that with a token, and you put this token in this crazy market world, that's there's risks involved.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I think there's a huge risk. But yeah, if you're wanting to get yourself out there, maybe it's a good thing. You get your promotion. Depends if if you like being in the spotlight. Yeah.
Well, there's also this, this idea of it's better to have 100 people that love you than 1 million people that just like you, right? And if you have an ecosystem like Indikin that is consistent in that thinking, then what you'll end up having is you won't need to be reliant on increased streams for revenue solely. It's one avenue, but there are other avenues within the ecosystem that can deliver revenues back to filmmakers and the ecosystem itself for development. And I think that's going to be key to get it right at the beginning, to see that's the mechanics of Indikin. It's not all about what you see with the traditional streaming. You need to get what is it on Spotify? You need to get 1 million streams to get 1 cent or something.
Oh wow!
So
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's out of my wheelhouse. But yeah, that's crazy. I just want to say g'day to Hexagon Lost in Asia. Sorry, I missed your comment there. And it turns out Mr. Football was actually Ross Green. So that's possibly why we haven't seen him, because he's been in the UK and China and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, it was Ross Green. That's funny. But what is up? Matisse Massey, my Hexagon homies. What's going on, amigo?
Hey guys, I actually have to head off. It's almost dinner time where I am. So nice to hear from you, Mr. Tom Gillespie. I look forward to what you're coming out with in the next couple of months. Sounds really interesting, mate. And the last one was funny as hell. So I really do look forward to it.
Cheers, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, 43. Thanks for coming on. Good to chat to you, bro. Have a good weekend.
Later, guys.
Cheers,
see you, mate. Yeah. So there's been a lot of comments here I may have missed, but yeah, imagine if the institutions bought X. That would be crazy. Not selling into a comment. Yeah, so I think this is interesting. I'd like to get your ideas on this, Tom. Your because having launched that G'day token, having participated in the degeneracy, I feel like you have a good sort of top-down kind of pull back feel for how these meme coins run and how euphoria sets in. Mainly, I mean, let's not shit ourselves. A lot of meme coins are pump and dumps. A lot of them are scams and things like that. But some of them have legs. But it boils down to the community that can hold it together. So then the value in the meme coin, you know, is the community. So when you're speculating on a meme coin, you're speculating on its community, on its mind share,
to hold on, yeah,
and its ability not to cheat, I guess. So in terms of the fact that we haven't seen, you know, a lot of euphoria. So here we go. This is the one. So this was the comment I like. We have not had euphoria or anything close. Therefore, it ain't over. So I like that idea that it's sort of like, well, yeah, you can have a theory about 4-year cycles and things like that. And then maybe Bitcoin tops in November. Maybe we see ETH top in December or January. Maybe these things happen. But the ultimate end is a sentiment. It is a euphoria. It's like people just saying, you know, even though it's done 100x, they're thinking it's going to do another 100x and another 100. Like we're just getting started. That kind of euphoria, and that's how you know it's the top, right? Is when they can't distinguish between reality and their emotions. So we haven't seen anything like that. We've seen it with gold, people, you know, around the corners and things like that, but we haven't seen the retail come in yet. So do you think meme coins are still going to play a part in this in the next, let's say, 6 months? Do you think we're going to see meme coins go on a mad run, or do you think it's just bear market?
I think we'll see pretty much the same of what we've already been seeing, mate. You know.
Okay. So you're a little bit bearish then. You think maybe we've seen, because we haven't seen much meme coins lately. So you think maybe that.
Are you talking about PulseChain or just generally in crypto? Or?
I'm talking about all meme coins, Dogecoin, Pepe, whatever. There's memes on Pulse, but you know, particularly people tend to only speculate on memes when they've done well in some other assets. So when Solana went up quite a lot, people had made quite a few X's on Sol, and then they put that money into these pump fund tickers. So maybe if Ethereum does really well, people will start buying Ethereum tickers, you know, or PulseChain goes up, people buy PulseChain memes. I'm not quite sure how it works. Maybe it's a bonded liquidity thing.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Oh, mate, I don't know. There's so much shit that goes on behind the scenes, right, as well. So I'm just like thinking, if you want to have some sort of steady project in your meme coin, then you probably need to, you know, be very, very tight with the community, and if possible, you know, somewhat selective in the early phases. It seems like there's a necessity of some guiding hand, or, you know, early stage centralization in order to gather the right types of people. And it's kind of one of those, right? It's like you go, what are they called, fair launches, where you just throw the entire supply at the market, and the market, you know, gobbles it up or doesn't or whatever. But then you've got these others where they're a little bit more selective, and, you know, it comes back to this idea of like dumb money versus, you know, experienced money or institutional, whatever, with some sort of like capacity to understand what's the association with this coin to where the fuck we're going. Should it get anywhere? Or is it just a kind of, let's just have a little fun and it'll be over? That will always exist, right? But I honestly just think we're going to see the same of the same. People will get bored. eventually, and arguably it's already happening. They're starting to look for more from these projects, right? Because it's like
the attention span is really bad when in meme coins, isn't it? It's like, what's, you know, that joke is funny, and then now what's the joke that comes along?
Yeah, it is.
But the
and
community,
also, you know,
they can dig in as well. You can get communities that dig in and they can come back.
Well, it's the founder somewhat responsibility of the founder to set a precedent for what the goal is, right? For example, with Indikin, you know, there's filmmaker tokens. You can see the filmmaker. They've got productions. They got work. They got more work coming. They got their community already from their film, their creative work. The token is like merely some sort of barometer for the community's, engagement with that filmmaker. So the relationship is just it's one way to look at how the fan base interacts with the filmmaker, right? And then stack that into an index is what we've kind of are looking at here, where, like you see in traditional indexes, you know, you get the Indikin token, you get exposure to all the filmmakers because they're all bonded in. But I think more and more down the road, we're going to see, you know, we saw the celebrity, you remember the wave of celebrity meme coins, and they were obviously just sort of like some guys came in and went, hey, you know, let's make a quick buck. And the celebrity tarnished their reputation over it because they didn't do their fucking homework, right? They didn't know what they were getting up to.
Yeah, so that goes back to what you were saying about depending on the distribution and how these people, like, because a lot of people snipe these launches, and then they I guess accumulate a large proportion of the supply as sort of in the hands of bad actors, and then so you know, with Trump coin or whatever, some of these big Iggy Azalea, you know, meme coins. I think it depends on the distribution at the start as to how they, you know, how long they can last, and how, you know,
how serious they are as well.
Yeah, maybe. But sometimes it's out of the founder's control if they don't restrict, you know,
well,
if they don't buy up a lot of their own supply. You have to buy up a lot of your own supply, I think is what it boils down to.
There are mechanisms for bypassing sniper bots at launch as well, which we were lucky enough to meet. Ben from Desktop.pro has a system where when we launched Indikin, we had a pause between the creation and the launch, and we watched, I think it was 50 to 100 sniper bots come through. We were watching it live, and they were just trying to come and buy it all up. And we just waited till that you know, they did their thing and it stopped. And then
you can put like $1 worth of liquidity or something like that.
So we were able to not, you know, be subjects of that, which means when we look at our supply and where we know that it's where we can see that the top 50 holders, we kind of have a repertoire with them already, which is a great foundation, I think, for where we're going. And I think, I mean, others have alluded to that fact that maybe, you know, Richard mucked up a bit there by bringing too many cheats into the ecosystem, or even
are you saying with pump tires token factory, or?
I think from what I was discussing with a fella in the community, it was more about how the sacrifice, you know, resulted in a lot of whales, you know, untoward whales being created.
As in the multipliers. So like you could get a 2.5x depending on the size of your.
I don't recall how it was done practically, but when you create a bunch of, you know, you create a bunch of like people that just don't want to see, they're not really interested in the success of the chain. And so you get this permanent.
Yeah, I've heard that criticism as well. That maybe a 2.5x was too much for those whales, because then they were already up at 2.5x from launch.
But what's also interesting is if you go back to the Hex, how he did Hex when he was asking people to put their Bitcoin wallet address into the website, as a registration. But at that time, he was
Bitcoin free claim. Yeah.
He was at that time, as I understand it, if I recall correctly, he was already quite, you know, despised by Bitcoiners for riding on the brand or something. It was called like Hex Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin Hex.
Yeah, Bitcoin Hex. Yeah. Look, I mean, he was always vocal, I think, about increasing block sizes and being debates.
So then, and then he complained, but then he complains that he's given all this hex to all these Bitcoiners that already despised him. So
but that wasn't a large amount of the supply, bro. Like if you look actually at those numbers, they didn't get a lot. It was like 10,000 hex per Bitcoin or something, you know, or whatever, 100,000 hex per Bitcoin. It wasn't a lot. So you would have had to have quite a lot of Bitcoin to have any large amount of the supply. Probably more so, it was about the inflation that the early hex OGs got in terms of, you know, the stakes and the big payday stakes and things like that. But that inflation has dropped right down with the OA having staked a lot of its supply. So I think that to kill inflation and then also stopping the inflation from the MasterChef contracts with the ink supply for the yield farms, that has also helped stop sell pressure from people with inflation. So I think it's kind of the way that I see. I think there is a bit of a vision, and that's to drop the liquidity. It was just to drop the liquidity, right? So if you drop the emission rate of ink in those yield farms, it discourages people adding liquidity. So that way you have less liquidity. When people are dumping, like selling the lows, they're eating more slippage, and you're taking more economic energy out of those sellers. But also when the time is right to pump, the less liquidity means that it's a lot lighter, a lot easier to pump. So I think some of the criticisms have been, even from RH himself, said some wallets pumped the chain. $20 million went into the chain, I think, in like January 2024 or something like that. And it got sold down. So then the criticism is like, well, there were too many people selling at that time. But if you have a look at the liquidity, there was like hundreds of millions of dollars in liquidity, like across like Pulse, like just in wrapped Pulse. And I'm pretty sure there was like 30 million, $40 million worth of liquidity in Hex. Now there's only like 3 million. If you look at the liquidity, let me just quickly pull this up. So if you inject $20 million, say, into the liquidity so the core coins at the moment, so Hex, for example, because it's, oh wow, $2.2 million Hex. So there's probably multiple pools, V1, V2. So, but let's say on the bid side, there's $1.1 million of Pulse on the bid side for Hex at the moment. So maybe there's about $2 or $3 million on the bid side. There's far less liquidity now than there was when that $20 million was injected in January 2024. So that $20 million, if injected now, would actually go a lot further, because the way that these AMMs work is that because it's a constant product multiple, you get the price increases with the square of the bid side. So if you double the bid side, you get a 4x in price. If you triple the bid side, you get a 9x. So even to get like a 9x, you would only have to add, so triple the bid side, let's say it's 3 million, you'd only have to add like 10 million to get a 9x for Hex. And then I'm sure there's downside, there's sell pressure and things like that. But I think even that 20 million may have done like let's just have a look. The 20 million that was put in Hex so this is around that. Oh, actually, this is saying so it was, depending on when you look at it. So I thought it was around January 2024, but no. From top to bottom, this is September 2024. maybe it was further back. Maybe it was this pump here. Either way, that is a 250, 280% increase. So say it's nearly a 4x. If he was talking about this is when the 20 million was put in, that's like an 8x. So, and that was just 20 million. Like, I think there was what in those SAC funds, there's like 620 million. So what's that? Like, there's 30 odd. Yeah. There's like 30 odd lots of 8x's that you could do. I mean, that's not considering sell pressure, but when you look at the numbers, low liquidity can pump hard, is what I'm saying, particularly with this, the way that the Uniswap forks work. You get this constant product liquidity with the AMM. You get the square of the bid side is the number of the X's in the price. So I don't know. I think the criticisms, yeah, it's all good, but I think we do have a lot of potential.
Yeah, I tend to like one of the things that I've been tackling in this production is the role of the founder. You know, myself founding G'day, and then also I met a bunch of founders, and then obviously Richard is kind of a running theme in this you know, story world, I guess. But when you are when you're the founder of a token, because we're still sort of feeling this out with Indican a little, right?
Right.
What are the, I mean, on PulseChain, what are the expectations, right, from a new meme coin, apart from what you see on Pump Tires, where they kind of congregate around an idea, chuck it, you know, chuck a load of like have a little fun with it, and then it sort of just peters off, and then they're done, and then rinse and repeat, right? And there's no founder really. It's just a bunch of dudes having a laugh.
Yeah. It's a bit, yeah. So
like you take it to a level, you can take it to the level, another level, which is a little bit more serious. I mean, we're going to take our filmmakers very, very serious, and you know, we're going to be bringing them into a community where we're, you know, fully into respect and collaboration, and to make sure that we put them on the right path in terms of how they should think about their token, their holders, especially their community. You know, is it, you know, on PulseChain, it seems like, well, from the interview I did with Somi, the Somi features in this, and we were talking about that transition from having fun with a shit coin, a meme coin like G'day, and then trying to add some sort of utility or take it to another level, which is a serious project. I think we've seen it with other chains as well. I think those Bored Ape the Ape Ape tried to make they tried to do something with a film or something as well, some credit. They had so much money that they could do something to take it to the next level. And arguably, it's not really what most people wanted. You know, they just they just wanted to get their gains and get out. They didn't want to see it become anything. So the question is, I'm sure
I'm sure that utility matters somewhat. The question is like, how significant is utility in terms of the price? Is it more the community, or is it like maybe there's other more significant factors that affect the price of a token? And it depends on whether you're in it purely for price go up, or if you're in it for artistic reasons or whatever, ethical reasons. But if you're in it for price go up, and then also it's like over what time frame, right? Because some of these things can go price go up for a very short time frame, and then there may not be liquidity for enough people to exit and solidify actual real gains, or whether you're talking about price go up over a sustained period of time with deep liquidity that whales feel comfortable actually participating. So, but yeah, in terms of utility, I feel like that's a bit of a catch cry, but you know, I think that it does matter. And people, you need to be able to do something. but how much of the price performance is tied to that utility and how much of it is just tied to network effects.
Yeah, and also, you know, why coming with the utility prior to the token existing, like what we saw with the celebrities, arguably their utility was their the big fan bases that they already had in the awareness. So it was very easy for someone to come in and go, look, launch this and we'll make fucking bank. But so filmmakers that are coming into Indican who don't have a token, that are, you know, want to be part of this, and then here's why we have the token, because we have these mechanisms that we're exploring in the index and stuff. Arguably that's a different approach, right? Because you're not going out and saying, buy my token, we're going to do cool shit in the future. It's, look, I'm already doing cool shit, I'm thinking I'm going to join these guys, there's a token index involved, this is what it's for, this is what it does. But it's not the beating heart of the creators, you know, the filmmakers' utility, if you like. It's more some sort of gauge or barometer of their position within the Indican ecosystem, right? So it has a different read, I guess, for people that are into the charts. Personally, I don't really do anything with the charts, so I don't get into that stuff so deep. But
okay, interesting.
I know people do, and I know that they need to be factored into this equation.
Oh yeah, 100%. So GetHex369 was listening to Spaces, Other Soldiers doing for marketing, FTP feeding to people. They're getting a lot of attention. Yeah, the Spaces. Have you gone on the Spaces and
which
sort of got in there? Yeah, Twitter Spaces. Like, have you got in there?
I've been on a bunch of Spaces, but I'm not shilling stuff, mate. I'm just having hanging out with the community, because I think there's something about coming on and doing the shilling with tokens and stuff that just is very off-putting. Just that's how I personally receive it.
Yeah.
It feels quite desperate. You know, I mean, if you knew that you had a good thing going, surely you'd want to keep as much of it to yourself as possible, right?
Yeah, well, that's the irony.
Discover it themselves.
That's the irony of all the trading courses and stuff that I see. Unfortunately, I know a few people that are into some of the degenerate sort of scalping of meme coins and things, and they're part of some paid group. And you sort of thinking, well, just logically though, if the guy who's selling you this paid course had all the tools that could just print money, why does he need you?
Yeah,
like,
why
do you need to pay
to
pay a subscription to his paid course? Why doesn't he just use those tools to just print money and keep it all to himself until his edge stops working? Like, it's clear that you are like, what's that thing where if the product is free, then you are the product. And in this case, the product isn't even free. They're getting paid. They're paying it for the paid group, and they are the product. I had the same problem with self-help books and things like that. People selling self-help, sort of marketing, you know, and doing talks and all this sort of stuff. And they go out there and they sell their book, and they're saying, you know, you can make money in business, and all you've got to do is follow your dreams and all this sort of stuff. And you're thinking, hang on a sec, you're actually making money from all these people attending your conference and buying your book. Like, that's a bit of a conflict of interest, right?
It's always fear driven, right? There's always some fear, whether it's like fear, uncertainty, or fear of missing out. Like, it's pull, push. The same methods are used all the bloody time, mate. I don't think we need to be using those methods. And that's not to say a filmmaker within Indican will use those methods in the future for their token. Everyone's free. Everyone, you know, individuals free to do as they please and experiment and try things, especially when it comes to staking and all the opportunities that are there on the DeFi smorgasbord, right? But I personally think we've got a great thing going with Indican, and I think it's probably the role of other people to do the shilling if they want to shill their bags, whatever, or pump their bags.
Yeah.
The people in the community will do that, but I don't think we should be seen to be in that sort of desperate position, because again, we know we've got a fucking great thing going.
Nice.
So
yeah, that's
why
a
would
good place
we,
to be. Yeah, that's a good place to be. Yeah, if you're confident in your
especially considering that's not the only revenue opportunity within this ecosystem, right? It's just one of a number, and obviously we'll be looking to add as many as possible, just like any other independent filmmaker would do with their productions. It's all about gathering as many revenue sources as you can, revenue streams as you can, as an independent. So
I like this comment from Sammy Chica. Somebody said today he's not selling to a Coinbase. Coinbase is the #1 app. Yeah, I wonder if those metrics are going to play out again. I certainly hope it will be that obvious. Bang Bang, Pulse Gang, what is up? Frank White. He's changed his name there slightly, but Frank White. And it looks like there's a few other comments here, but yeah, apologies if I've missed anyone. Yeah, look, I think that is interesting. Your comment on, fear being a tool and unfortunately a method of control, because I think there is a lot of that goes down through like religion, through government. A lot of people are driven by fear, and we saw that through the pandemic, people's behaviors and all this sort of stuff, the scarcity mindset, fear of and currency debasement, fear of people having their superannuation nest eggs being eroded, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, you can kind of choose to not be fearful. I feel like that's a choice that people can make, and I encourage people to act like that if where possible, because then that way you have a default setting of positivity, and then you can kind of say, well, like an abundance mindset, we can all get along, we can all have all of these things. And then, I mean, it's an ideal, it may not be the reality, but if you set that as your default, you probably end up like a happier person and maybe more productive person. If you go out of the house and you create these networks, you create these connections, and you do all these things, then more opportunities are going to present themselves, rather than staying at home and being negative and having a smaller circle of influence. Then you're going to have less opportunities. Like, it's just sort of how it seems. So yeah, I would say definitely people need to see if we can expand our networks, and I hope that the Indican thing can take off. I wish you the best for it.
I think it's already taken off. We've already done it. We've proven parts of the ecosystem already function very well. So it's only really a question of how personal, or how we want the community to unfold or emerge. Because like I said earlier, what it is in this early phase, right now we're encoding our values into the system, our early values of the five of us that have started this thing, and that will paint the picture of how this thing unfolds in the future. And it's why we have processes for bringing new filmmakers and their tokens into this system, because you can't automate. I don't think you can automate away these types of relationships that we're looking to develop and nurture. Sure. I don't think you can. And I don't think I don't think you should have to, just because that's what the people want. Pump my bags, you're the founder, come on, sort it out, get your shit together. And this constant leaning on them. It's kind of like, let's just give them the space to do their thing. A little bit like with the creative side, right? So
yeah. Look, there is a bunch of things out there in terms of the degeneracy aspect as well. Like, this is a rhmemes.com. I thought this was interesting. It had ranked like Most and Peacock, Pump, Bitcoin Hex, Pepe. I mean, this one here is up 37% for the day. There are a lot of things that are happening on PulseChain in terms of memes and things as well. And of course, like the actual the core coins, which is what I'm sort of mainly interested, are all green today. So I gotta give shout out. The Hex is up, 11% today. We're about to break 007. So, we're starting to see some price positive action there. It looks like maybe it's sitting on this fib line, this support here. So that would be nice if we can form a bit of a bottom.
I'm just curious because I personally look at the weekly or the monthly or the quarterly, really.
Sure.
So I'm sure you do the same as well, right? You must zoom out now and again rather than just looking at the daily.
I do. It depends on what time frame I'm talking about. So if I'm talking about in the next, few days, and I think, well, we've just broken above the 20-day moving average, then that implies that maybe if we can hold that for the next foreseeable short-term time frame, like days, we could be entering an uptrend. But yeah, if you're talking about weeks, then this is saying that we've had, some negative, below the 20-week. We're finding support here on this fib line. So maybe in the weeks to come, it needs to get back above this to be in an uptrend. So we're still in a downtrend on a weekly time frame. So yeah, I do kind of zoom out, but you have to kind of take some of these charts with a grain of salt, particularly with the Hex sort of founder has just literally just tornado cashed like $600 million worth of ETH like this morning. So at some level, that unfortunately there is an element of faith going on here where people are kind of going, well, the charts look bad, but I'm still bullish. Maybe they're speculating on.
Funny you chose faith, and you sure it's not fear of missing out?
It could be. I think fear is a strong motivation. Yeah,
because I understand that a lot of hexagons are staked up to the eyeballs on the 555 stuff, right? Which means they're in it. Yeah,
sure.
No choice. They're in it forever now. So why bother looking at the fucking dailies at all? Do you know what I mean? There's
a lot of people with liquid bags, though. There's a lot of people with liquid bags.
Liquid stakes or what?
No, like non-staked hex, like just having a lot of hex that's not staked, like just sitting there. So then they can choose whether to sell it or on the day.
But the majority is staked for 555, right?
No way, not at all. No. I think people, tended to stake a lot more at the start. But I think if you look at those staking metrics, the staking has gone down massively over the last few years. People just stopped doing stakes, like long-term stakes. There's a lot of people who are true believers, that into that sort of stuff, like Crispy Man and even 43 True Blue. These guys, have a more longer-term outlook than I do. But no, I sort of tend to be more. I mean, I do have some long stakes and things like that, but no, I tend to be more looking in the shorter term and more playing the cycles, speculating on cycles more than anything. So that's why I'm kind of thinking with the global liquidity has been going up with the macro, like we've got interest rates being cut in 4 days' time. Gold has been going up. There could be some gold rotation. There's actually some other things that have been going on. Like, I mean, even with just the interest rates being cut, so this is, ARK Invest buying $167 million worth of Bitcoin today. JP Morgan expects the Federal Reserve to end quantitative tightening next week, which is pretty crazy. Apparently there's $7 trillion in money markets that are sitting there because they're earning decent interest. When the interest rates get cut, they might be looking to rotate some of this, $7 trillion markets might be looking for somewhere else put their capital. So I'm kind of hoping that we see a really big end to the year. But I'm acutely aware that bear markets exist and that not everything lasts forever. And sometimes, you do have to sell the top, well, DCA out, if you want to preserve the gains that you've made. So not everyone likes to hear that or agrees with me, but that's where I.
Well, it's just the reality, isn't it? It's just the reality of it. So
yeah, you kind of have to sort of almost capitalize when the going is good, and then preserve before winter kicks in. It's just seasonal, but that's okay. It's like that's how it's always been. People accumulated grain or wheat or fruit and maybe food stores for when the going was good, when there was a migration of bison or whatever, and the crops were growing, and then the seasons change, and then you have to weigh it, ride it out. So
I saw Coexistence has put a little gang together there down under. Have you been joining those fellas?
I've been part of the Telegram groups for the DeFi. I forget what it's called, but it's basically DeFi Australia. Yeah, look, I think they've got lofty goals, man, super lofty goals, and full credit to them. And I really hope it works. I think we all can agree, that there's a flawed financial system and there are some problems there, and people should be embracing DeFi. I worry about the actual action plans, because I know that a goal without an action plan is just like a wish. You know what I mean? So like, because I've participated in, let's just say, like NATA accreditation and ISO 9001 accreditation and certification and things like that. And when you get audited by some of these things, and if you have a business plan, they will say at every step of the way, well, how are you going to create that plan? What actions are you putting in place to make that, your business goal a reality? Because if you just have a business plan, but with no action steps in place, you're just wishing. Like, you say, oh, we want to have a 10x growth. Well, what steps are you going to do to ensure that you're getting that 10x growth? You can't just wish for it to happen. And so that idea I've really taken on board. It's like, you want to lose weight, you want to build muscle. Well, how many push-ups are you going to do a day? How many sets of how much load, how many kilograms under pressure, under load, like, are you going to put your muscles over per day to get the gains that you want to see? Or are you just hoping that you're going to get jacked? Like, you actually have to put in the work, right? So, so when it comes to the, I really respect the ideas of the DeFi crew, the Coexistence guys, that they've got going, but words are cheap. I want to see, what sort of actions that they've got.
Well, I saw that they got out of the house. I saw that they actually got out of the house, so that felt like they're actually meeting in person. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good first start.
That's a big step, I think.
Yeah, but what? Let's not shit ourselves. I mean, we're talking about established financial systems that have been like trillion-dollar markets, multi-billion-dollar industries. Like, how are you going to disrupt this? What is your plan here?
And is that the goal? I mean, there is another way, right, where you just build in parallel.
Yeah, but we can all sit around, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya. But at the end of the day, you got to like put some actual plans in place, right? Like So one of the things I've seen as a change in the financial system has been the introduction of stable coins, and the prevalence of that. Gold-backed stable coins, maybe even governments like the US issuing gold-backed treasuries, or being treasuries like issuing their own stable coins that are backed by treasuries, so that it's not relying on the Federal Reserve to buy the treasuries for them to expand the money supply. So then they're taking the control of the expansion of the money supply out of the hands of the Fed and into the government. You could argue that that's a bad thing. That might not be a good thing, but that's a significant change in the way that it has been done in the past, and that could affect about the distribution of debt around the world. Like that seems to like make it is going to make a big difference. Tether printing $7 billion worth of Tether this week. That happened, and then that liquidity entering the market, that has huge effects. And they had to buy up the gold to back the Tether, and so we saw gold go up. There are things out there that make huge difference, and there are people out there. I mean, Jexa's building, with the vouch thing, trying to establish liquid staking for the validators, and that's helping to build the network. There's people, and like everything is. Every role is significant. Like, people are creating network effects through the community, like through spaces, through your filmmaking thing. That's all non-trivial. But what I'm saying is, like, I want to see people building shit. And I can't talk because I don't build anything. So I'm not saying that I'm a great contributor, because I'm not. Apart from doing this where I sit around and chat. But yeah, it's great to have an organization and talk about DeFi Australia, but are they going to change legislation in Australia with regard to how cryptocurrencies are taxed? Are they going to change, are we going to lobby again for MPs or members of parliament, whatever, for changes in the consideration of, like, say with crypto, every single swap that you do is a capital gains event, even if it's stablecoin to stablecoin. Even wrapping a token is a capital gains event. Maybe there should be some changes to the way that crypto, if you are thinking of future proofing it, where you can actually buy things with cryptocurrencies, you can't be having capital gains events every single time you buy a Snickers bar. So the legislation needs to change. So how are you going to do that? Maybe you can come up with different, lending protocols or whatever. There's different ways, but I'm more interested in the how.
Do you think that's an important? You think that's an important mission, or?
Yeah, There's lots of important missions.
Existing established way of doing things is the way to do it. Is to get inside there and change it from the inside out.
To whatever degree you are able to. I mean, some people who get into the political system aren't able to affect the change that they wanted to, that made them get into it in the first place. But
I'm pretty confident, like, rich people have been trying to do this forever. And typically what they do is they say, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to leave this country and go where I'm treated best.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So I kind of see that as, I'm sure there are people as well working on a similar thing, right? But of course you don't literally need to physically relocate in the world anymore. You just sort of relocate your digital sort of presence, I guess, or your how long you're in certain jurisdictions for how much of the year or whatever. People, the rich have been playing all these fucking games forever. Yeah. Now it's just a bunch of middle-aged fellas maybe who have the chance to sort of play along and try these things out as well, right?
Yeah.
And so I tend to think that we're constantly reinventing the fucking wheel in DeFi, in crypto in general. Where it's already happened in the regular economy. It's been done. The only difference is you had to be hyper wealthy to do these things. Now anyone can do them, right?
Yes. So for example, like if people were to sell an asset and then pay a capital gains, tax on that asset, whereas if you took a loan against that asset, that historically, rich people have always done, is actually to take loans out against the asset, so they never had to sell the underlying asset. Then they could, as long as they could pay the premiums on the loan, then they get to retain the asset. So, and now we can do that. With crypto, you can take. I'm
reminded of when Richard was doing this SEC case thing, there was this quote that came up where from the judge. Where is the blockchain? I think it was.
Yes.
So there's also this kind of like mystery still lingering, which I find fascinating because, like you said before, you've got institutions, governments fucking about with stable coins in a realm that's supposedly still full of, you know, mystery in terms of regulatory enforcement. I think everyone's just having a crack, mate. They're all just at the casino having a shot, you know. Let's try some things. It's free to play. Everyone's free to play, right? And that comes back to the idea of who you're going to be governed by, or who your economy is going to be governed by in the future, or maybe not who, but what protocols, in which jurisdictions. And you'll get to a point where you can choose. You can hop and skip, probably, just like the rich do in the world, right? In the regular economy.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, like you say, you know, where is the distributed ledger located? If it's decentralized enough, then it becomes an interesting question. But people are always going to move to Dubai because of the tax benefits, or Puerto Rico or whatever.
Well, so you don't necessarily have to move anywhere. That's what I mean. They just move their assets, right, or whatever. So.
Yeah, look, I'm not a tax expert. I don't know about, but I'm sure there are those sorts of tricks that the elite have been doing. And look, the corruption is rife. Like this has been one of my long-standing things, where you have like corruption and incompetence, and they're not mutually exclusive. And a lot of it you see it is despicable, you know, in government and in, you know, large institutions and things, the amount of corruption that goes down. So whether that's going to change, whether that's a human nature thing, I'm not quite sure. And sometimes you can opt out of some of these systems, but sometimes it'll just change. The system will change somewhat. I mean, I know with the GFC, they just created all these derivatives and then it all blew up and they got bailed out, and there was no ramifications for that. And then so now there's this huge debt crisis where there's now $38 trillion of the debt. So they have to debase the currency to bring the debt down because they can't produce enough GDP to actually keep up with the debt, and they can't tax enough people to be able to pay the premiums on the debt. So there are things that happen, and there's sort of systems that have been put in place that are almost irreversible, and then they have to adapt and change. But in the end, a lot of those guys, yeah, they'll bias it in their favor 100% of the time. And the people who end up paying are probably like the middle class, unfortunately. So, yeah, I mean, life is short. I think people should try and just enjoy it as much as you can. There's some of these things we can't control. But once you sort of have seen behind the curtain a little bit, yeah, you realize that there is a lot of unscrupulous things happening. But anyway, let's wrap this up. Don't stress, Dozza. No one is building. It's all cut and pasted. Upstream more valuable, keeping people hanging around. Maybe. I don't know. But good to chat to you, Tom. And always interesting to hear your insights, you know, and philosophies on life and things. So hopefully we can catch you again some other time. But yeah, thanks to the chat. Thanks to 43 Replay Gang. And yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Appreciate it, mate. Thanks heaps.
No worries. Cheers, mate. Catch up.